So we're up to the Mishnah on the top of Ayin Aleph, Amud Aleph. And again, this is a continuation, and it's important to say it's a continuation because the Gemara, the Mishnah, does not clarify openly what the circumstances we're talking about here. The Mishnah said, "Loyes habar v'loyes hagas v'loyes hashoybeth." When someone sells a sada, it doesn't include a pit, meaning a cistern to hold water, for the reasons we've discussed Lagabe a house, that it's a separate entity, v'loyes hagas. And this is talking about it's not talking about whether this is talking about an olive press or a wine press. We're not talking about obviously a wheat field. We're talking about if you would have a kerem, sometimes they would have a wine press right underneath it. Not a chicken coop, which a person might sometimes have by a sada. So if you look quickly at the first Rashbam on the Mishnah, he clarifies this a little more. First of all, the Mishnah didn't clarify that we were talking about a sada. It could have been a house. Even though he said, I'm including everything in it, which is why it's important to keep in mind that this is a continuation. In the previous Mishnah, we had first said the dinim, and then we said, but if he says, even so, so this is really a continuation. That's how the Rashbam, that's what motivates the Rashbam to say that this din of Loyes Habar, Loyes Hagas, Loyes Hashevach is included even where he said Kol Masha B'Seicha. We're on the Mishnah on the top of Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph. We just started a minute ago. Okay, Bein Charev and Bein Yeshuvah, and this din that these ancillary types of objects or situations that are next to or inside a field are not included in a sale, it doesn't make a difference whether they're active or inactive, whether they're Charev means whether they're desolate, but desolate in this context doesn't mean that they're not working, doesn't mean that it's not usable, but it means that it's charev, that it's not actively in use. But the bottom line of all these things is that when you have a field, these three things, a pit or a wine press or a chicken coop, are not part of the field and not sold together with the field. The seller retains them for himself. We just started the Mishnah on Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph. Now we're going to get to the machlokes that we've had a number of times before, and you have it throughout Shas, the machlokes of Ba'ayin Yafu Meicher and Ba'ayin Rohu Meicher. So this is really very similar to this is the topic that we were discussing yesterday, Rafal, about Ba'ayin Rohu, Ba'ayin Yafu. So we said about whether do you sell with the path going to the object that you retain. Okay, so let's say Reuven was the seller, and he sold his field to Shimon. This field contained a wine press or a pit for water or a chicken coop, and those Reuven keeps for himself. The Tzarech Likin Leiderech Divrei Rebbe Kiva. Rebbe Kiva will say that Reuven, when he sells the field, now he sold the field, and he sold the field entirely. He sold it ba'ayin yafa. He sold it with a good eye, meaning he sold it generously, and therefore he had left nothing for himself, even though now he has a shevech or a bar in the middle of this field that he can't get to. Nevertheless, that's the way he sells it, because people sell generously. The Chacham Maimrim ain't it, sir? The Chum disagree. They say he sells. He's stingy with his sale, and he retains what he needs for himself. Since when he sells, he keeps the bar for himself. So therefore, he's going to need a way to get to that bar. So therefore, he includes the bar for himself. He includes the path to get to the bar. Reuven's going to he's not going to have to now negotiate with Shimon. He's going to be able to keep that path. Zak the Gemara. Rebbe Kiva will be Maida that if this Reuven, when he sold it, he unnecessarily said to Shimon, I'm selling you this field, but I want to keep for myself the bar. Now, like we said in this Mishnah, it's not necessary for him to say that because he gets to keep the bar anyway. If the seller, if Reuven says specifically, I'm not selling the bar, he must mean something by that. So the Mishnah says even Rabbi Kiva would agree under that case, under that circumstance, that he's not selling generously and he's retaining the right to the path. Because otherwise, why did he say this? Well, he didn't have to say I'm keeping the bar. He gets it anyway. Reuven doesn't have to say I'm keeping the bar. So if he said it, it's to keep some other extra right that he wouldn't have gotten. What's that right? That right is to the path, to have an easement to be able to cross over the field that he had just sold to Shimon. Now we're going to talk about the reverse case, where it's the same sheet of Rabbi Kiva and the Rabbanon, but it's going to come out reversed because in this case, we're talking about where he only sold, let's say, the bar, and he kept the field for himself. Reuven, rather than selling the field and retaining the bar, sold the bar and retained the field. So Machar and La'achar, if Reuven sold his bar to Shimon, Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Kiva says that Reuven, like we said, he sells generously. So in the first case, that meant that Reuven now has to negotiate to get a path to it. But now is saying, in the case where he sold the bar, he does that generously and he sells it to Shimon along with the path for Shimon to get to the bar. And the Chacham holds fakert. The Chachamim say exactly the opposite. They say a person who sells stingily, and therefore since Reuven is selling the bar, all he's selling is the bar. Now Shimon's going to have to start a whole new negotiation to get a way to get to his path. I keep on reiterating that because I remember when I first learned this, it seems like such a bizarre thing that you'd sell something and then be left without a way to get to it. Like, it seems like I wouldn't pay a nickel for that because let's say Reuven sold this bar to Shimon and Shimon buys it for $1,000. The bar is worth $1,000. And now Shimon says, okay, I'm ready to go to work at my bar. And he goes to Reuven and he says, okay, how much do I have to pay you for the bar? So if Reuven's a smart businessman, he'll say, well, listen, the bar's worth $1,000. If you want to get to it, it'll be worth $1,000 for you. Why should I give it to you for any less? You have no use of this bar without my agreeing. It seems like he's put himself in a very weak negotiating position where he has no access. It happens to be Camp Morris, where I go in the summer. There's a piece of land that is right adjoining Camp Morris, which is not usable without getting access rights to the main road through property that Camp Morris owns. And that property has been talked about being developed, like people bought it, they spent a lot of money for it, and they had plans to build, a $10, $20 million development, not more, maybe even more, probably a $30 million development there. And Camp Morris basically says, well, listen, you can't do it unless we get to decide who moves in there, and you have to pay us certain amounts of money. Otherwise, we're just not going to give you access. So to me, access is the entire value. It's a yes or no thing. Anyway, sorry for that digression, but I've always found this very interesting. The Mishnah continues. Now, let's remind ourselves, we have to keep where we're up to in this Mishnah. We started the Mishnah with the discussion that if someone sells a field, he doesn't sell along with it. Even if he said, Kol Masha B'Seicha, it doesn't include these independent objects like a bar or a gas or a shayva. Then we diverted to the question of ba'ayin ra, ba'ayin yafa. But now the Mishnah is going back to the original statement that when someone sells a field, it doesn't include these extraneous objects. So when is that true? That a person does not include the bar or the gas or the shayveh? So that's talking about someone who's selling. As we're going to see in the Gemara, someone who gives a matana, he gives the whole thing. It includes everything, which is it's sensible on the face of it. A person is more generous when he's selling, when he's giving something. When he's selling, he's doing it because he needs the money. So it's a business transaction. When he's giving. He's giving because he wants to give. He wants to be mative to the other person. Ha'achin shechoku, when you have brothers that divide up an estate, so they inherited property from their father, and now they're dividing up. Zacha b'sada, zacha b'kula. This is different than a sale because the brothers want to have it fully. So when they agree that you're getting field A and the other one's getting field B, they both agree that they should get the field together with all the appurtenances, all the ancillary items. So machzuk b'nichsei hager is again a different case of a person getting something. In that case, we're not talking about a sale or a matana. It's somebody, a ger died, and he left behind things that are now hefker, and someone's coming to be machzik in them. So he hechzik b'sada, hechzik b'kula. There's no reason to limit how much the person wants to get. He wants to get as much as possible. So when he made a chazaka in the sada, he also was machzik in the bar and the gas and the shayvach. Hamakdish asada, hikdish es kula. Similarly, someone who's makdish sada, like this is like a fourth or a fifth type of way of acquisition. Someone who has a sada and he gives it to hektish, which generally what happens then is he's paid it for its value, and that money goes for bedek habayis. When he's makdish it, he means to be makdish. We're saying there's a inherent. Everyone will say that there's a ba'ayin yafa. We're going to see in the Gemara later on if this is true, if this is both according to Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim in the question of ba'ayin ra, ba'ayin yafa, or it's just in Rabbi Kiva. But the Pashas, this is like we said, we're not talking about ba'ayin ra, ba'ayin yafa. We're talking about what a person means when they're makdish something. And the Pashtas was saying, "Hamakdish asada." He means to be makdish everything that's included in it. Reb Shimon disagrees. He says when you makdish something, all you mean to be makdish is just the sad itself. It doesn't include the bar and the gas and the shevich. It's more like someone who sells something. He doesn't intend. It's not a matana. He's giving, but he's only giving what he intended, what he said. However, an exception to that. These trees, the charuv hamurkav and the sad and hashikma, the mature carob tree. Murkav means that it gets grafted. So when it's grafted, that's a sign that it's mature. And the sadan is hashikma, the fully grown shikma, that they would cut it down. They would cut it. Once it reaches a certain size, they would cut it down. That's a siman that it's mature. This is fakart from what we've always said about these things. These things normally are not included. Rav Shimon says in this case, for reasons that the Gemara is going to explain, Rav Shimon says they are included, even though everything else is not included when he says, even when he's makdish the entire field. Zok the Gemara. Maishna mecher u'maishna matan. So the Gemara is going back. We're not going all the way back to the beginning. One of the nafkaminas we said that when someone sells a field, he sells it with kol ma'aseh with the bar and the dust. What is the difference? Why does a mecher include everything, and why does a matan? Why does a mecher not include the bar and the gas and the shayvach? And why by matana does it? Pirish Yehuda ben Akusa l'fnei Rebbe ze pirish v'ze loy pirish. He says that the person who gave a matana was pirish everything. He said, "I'm giving the bar and the gas and the shayvach," and the one who sold did not say he's giving those things. Zok the Gemara, Hai ze pirish v'ze loy pirish. What are you talking about? The Mishnah never said anything about them specifying anything different. In both cases, the person didn't say I'm including. If he would have included them specifically, they certainly would be included. So if you told why you're inventing this new distinction that is not stated in the Mishnah, and you're saying that's the reason why matana and mecher is included. The Mishnah never said anything about anyone saying anything. Hello. The difference is one he should have explained and one he shouldn't have. So there's two pshatim that are brought in the Rashbam about what this means. So let's see the Rashbam, Zehayel Farsh, about halfway down in the wide lines. Zehayel Farsh, the Rashbam, Noisa Matana, Kivan the Raga Litin Ba'ayin Yafa, someone who gives a matana. Since normally a matana is given generously, a person doesn't want to give a gift and then add on a contract and say, oh, by the way, this is not included and that's not included. In Isa the high la Ba'ayin Yafa Yav, he should have specified that these things are not included if he's going away from the norm and he doesn't intend to give them. All the things that I mentioned, but the loy shire, therefore he loses. But someone who's selling, there's understood that he's giving a minimum. He's not trying, he's only doing because he needs the money. So he's not doing any more than he intended. The that's the first pshat. That what's the assumption of how a noisa matana as opposed to a meicher is that we would expect that the noisa matana, if he wasn't giving ba'ayin yafa, would be mefarish. He says it's the other way around. It's the person who's buying who should have made an objection. The kivin shenoisin domim einem is ba'ish min ha'meicher. He's not embarrassed. Since he didn't say, this is exactly what I'm expecting, he loses. He's embarrassed to start entering into negotiation with someone who's giving him with him a gift. It's a svara that the kaina would be reluctant to tell someone who's giving matana, are you including also the bar and the gas? So therefore, it's included minastam. Example of this. Hahuda Amr Lahu. Besa, the Masuk Meya Golf. Someone said, give, he said, he gave was the nice matana. He said, Reuben said, give to Shimon this house that has the airspace or has a square footage of 100 barrels. 10 barrels by 10 barrels. Let's say a barrel is 2 feet, so it's 20 by 20. And it turns out Reuben only had one house, and that house was 120 square barrels. Amazutra, Meya Amalei, Meya Ve'esin Le Amalei. Mazutra says, sorry, that's what it's limited to. You said 100 square feet. Reuben said 100 square feet. All that Shimon gets, he gets 5/6 of the house. He gets the 100 square feet. He doesn't get the other 20. Those Reuben has retained for himself. He says, no, a noisin is ba'ayin yafin. This is talking about a noisin matana. He gives it generously. So we have to understand when he said it's 100 square feet, he was mistaken. He thought that this house was 100 square feet, but it's not that he was limiting it just to the 100 feet or the 100 square barrels. So the Gemara. This is the Gemara is bringing the whole machlokes. We said that someone who's a makdish, he's makdish the entire thing. Rav Shimon said, a person who's makdish does not include any of these, the gas and the bar and the shayva. The only things that are included is the fully grown chashav trees that are normally excluded. Amar Avuna, Avagav the Amar Rabban, so this is a Gemara that we had back I don't remember where, but we've had it a bunch of times. I think it was back in Cheskes Habatim. We said that when a person buys trees, if he buys 3 trees, those are considered to be like a mini orchard, and they include karka with them. But if he sold if he sold individual trees or less than 3, then all he's buying is individual trees. So the Rabbanan said, even though the Rabbanan said when you buy 2 ilanis, you don't get the karka, meaning that not only do you not get any karka in between, you also don't get the right to replant these trees if they die. You haven't purchased a permanent right. Even though that's the case, machar karka v'shar shtei ilanis, if you turn it around, if a person instead of selling 2 trees, he sold karka and he kept for himself 2 ilanis, two of the trees, yesh la karka. He retains for himself the karka. He wants to have that he still owns the karka underneath it. And this is true even according to Rabbi Kiva, who says when you are meicha b'ayin yafa meicha, this person sold the karka. So normally that would include the karka underneath the trees and the rights he would have sold the rights to replant his trees. That wouldn't be true in this case. Hanimili gabi bar v'dus. When a person gives a bar, when he sells a bar and dus, he's giving it, he's selling it, and he's keeping the bar and dus. When they don't do anything to the ground, it's not going to harm anyone if he has a bar and dus. The bar and dus is only where it is. Nothing's going to happen from him selling the rights to get to the karka. It's not going to cause any problems. But by ilanis, where an ilan, if it continues to be there, it grows roots, and those roots will impede the possibilities of the person who bought the karka, and it's always going to be an irritant to him that he's not going to be able to plow where the roots are, and he doesn't really want the tree to remain there. If the person who sold the karka and kept the 2 trees does not retain for himself the ground underneath it, when the tree dies, the owner of the karka will say, I've had enough of this. This tree has been driving me crazy the entire time it's here, and I don't want you to rebuild it, and it will cause friction, and therefore, because the owner is going to try to get him out. So Sakfrak the Gemara. So this is why, even according to Rabbi Kiva, who says when a person sells karka, he still retains his right, the land under the tree, which is a little bit of an amorphous right. Which this is why we have these long Tyson, and we're saying going with the Rashbam Shita that it's talking about the right to replant it even at this point, which is the Gemara is going to come to that result in the end as well. So even Rabbi Kiva will agree that in this case he's not meicha ba'ayin yafa, the person who sells the karka and leaves the trees for himself. So we said Rav Shimon is chaylik on the Tanakama, and he says someone who's makdish asada, he doesn't include the bar and the gas and the shaybach, but he does retain for himself a charuv hamurkov, the fully grown carob tree and shikma tree. But Tani Allah, matam, what's the reason? Because these trees, if you retain the trees for yourself, you gave away the karka, the trees get nutrition from the ground underneath them. And if you say that he retained the trees for himself, he's always going to be in the position where his trees are being basically mild, they're being nana from hektish. He gave away the karka, and they're getting they're getting from the ground. So the Gemara says what's kasha. If you say that when a person keeps for himself a tree, not only does he keep the tree, but he keeps the karka that supports the tree, and that's why he's able to replant it, because he has rights not just to the tree, but also to the supporting land. What is Rav Shimon's problem? Why is Rav Shimon saying that a person, when he sells, when he's makdish karka, he's also makdish the trees on it, because otherwise he's going to end up with a problem that his tree is being gained from hektish. According to the way we said, that even Rabbi Kiva is maida, that a person retains the right to the land that supports the tree. He's never been yonik from hektish. He retained that as well. He retained the rights to the karka that support the tree. So he's not being yonik from hektish. So Gemara reverses itself. And it says, even though we try to justify that this original the Chachamim, who said that you keep when you get the tree, you don't get the land underneath it. Rav Shimon Da'amakar Rabbi Kiva. So Einachanami, this Rav Shimon is saying Rabbi Kiva, who says Ba'ayin Yafa Meicher, that when a person sells the land, it includes the land under the trees. Rav Huna Da'amakar Rabbanan. Einachanami, Rav Huna, that we were trying to justify, even according to Rabbi Kiva, is limited to say only like the Rabbanan, who said Ba'ayin Ra Meicher, and therefore that's the reason why he has a problem with his Hegdish Sikma and Charav. If you're saying that he's saying like the Rabbanan, what does Rav Huna have to tell us this din? He's not really telling anything new. We know that the Rabbanan hold the Ayin Ra Meicher, and therefore it doesn't include the land underneath, and therefore what does the Rabbanan have to tell? Why does Rav Huna have to tell us that he doesn't get the land underneath? So Gemara Nafkamini Nafli Hadar Shasalu. Like we said from the beginning, the Rashbam was understanding like this from the beginning. The Nafkamina is not just that the land is being used by the tree, but it's also that he can't replant the tree if it falls down. Okay, we'll stop over here and we'll continue. The next kasha goes through a good part of the next Amid, so we'll do it to Hashem tomorrow. By the way, I should tell everyone to keep your eyes open. Be'ez Hashem, we're going to make a Shalom Zachar at my house for my daughter, for Sadowski. Those of you who daven by Rabbi Tursky, you know him as the occasional Balkaira. So he had a boy yesterday. So we're going to make the Shalom Zachar.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Massive, y'all. You said which one? You said this is the Balkaira who had a baby?
Yeah.
What number is it for them, Kainar?
The second.
Wow. Crazy.
Is that your sister on the camera there?
My sister? No. It's my daughter.
That's your daughter?
Yeah. These are the
She
twins.
looks like she's like 26. 26 years old.
She's very sad because her brother's going to yeshiva today and she stays home an extra day.
Does she know that this year she's going to start getting homework? It's not going to be fun anymore?
You hear that?
You like doing homework?
She's starting Q&A. It's serious business.